And it could be maybe that they're nomadic people and that's how they've always been. They're always on the move with herds and things like that. So it may have been something that they were familiar with. But he left the land of his people. And even just I've traveled in Asia and traveled in Africa, lived in some countries that were not my own. And so now being in Kenya, married to a Kenyan, born and raised here, totally different country. Even within Kenya, there's tribes, there's tribalism, prejudices, cliques. It is, and one might say that all Kenyans are brothers and sisters. How could you have strife amongst each other? But you really can, right? And my gosh, Elohim, what was my point of making that point? I can't remember why I started mentioning Kenya. I think, I was just talking about that you could have strife even within the family, even with the land that is your home, with people that you know. It's difficult. So here it is now that we see Abram, he let Lot take this plane by Jordan, and he took another plane. And so we're going to skip through because we're not really interested right now at this point talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? And verse 14, and the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. Now he just let Lot pick, and Lot chose the choicest amount, right? The richest, most fertile valleys to the eyes. And yet, when Elohim says to him, look north, south, east, and west, that's everywhere, even to the area where Lot went. Elohim still came back and said, listen, all of this will I give to your seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise and walk through the land in the length of it, in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram removed his tent. So they're moving again, and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So he built two altars. He left, he went through Egypt, came back, came here, back around again to, I think, maybe the second altar that he had made. He settled down. There's strife between him and Lot. So now he's got to move again. And so he's building his third altar. How many of us would still keep building an altar after who knows how I'm sure we could find out, but I didn't do a study on it. Like, we don't have any idea really how much time has passed between the time that he first heard from Elohim to leave his home country and to move out and moving out and building an altar and journeying and going to Egypt and being there and having problems and leaving Egypt after the famine and coming in, and him and his brother Lot split, not brother, excuse me, son's brother. And so now he built again a third altar after he moves to a different place. So in Genesis 14, this comes the war of the kings, right? So these four kings, Genesis 14, go to war and all sorts of things. We're not here to cover the war. We're looking for Abraham and his journey, right? And so on in Genesis 14, verse 13, and there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Bashat, and the brother of Aner, and these were confederates with Abram. And when Abram had heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. So not only now, and the thing is that he gathered his trains and he made a decision to go to war and to make a rescue attempt. We don't see here where he stops and he asks Elohim if he should go or not go. And I'm not saying that his decision is to go is right or wrong. That's not our discussion today. But after all this moving that he's done, he let Lot take that choice part. He went somewhere else. He walked the land as Elohim said. He built a third altar and he settled there. And now he's got to go to war. There's a chance he could die. There's a chance he could lose a lot of people. Like he's going up against 4 kings of territory that's their own territory. This is not his home country. And when he goes to war and we know that he's victorious and he comes out of it and he meets, he makes this decision to go. And we know that he wins and he comes back out. And here he is. And he's on his path to his wealthy place. But there are so many things, maybe diversions, things that have had to happen. And so I'm saying to you, when you are on your journey to your wealthy place, maybe you want to think about not getting discouraged so easily. I guess that's where I'm going to, right? Because we wouldn't doubt that Abraham was blessed, that he was called by God. We call him our father of faith. We see Elohim talk about Abram's faith. And I hope that in these 2 simple chapters that we've just read through, skimmed through really, you can see his faith. To leave, to build an altar, move, build an altar, move, get to famine, go down to Egypt, get in trouble, be confronted, move out, get strife in with Lot, move somewhere else, build an altar, settle. These 4 kings go to war. You know nothing about it until someone escapes and comes and tell you. And so now you've got to pack up and go. You have to take your resources, pack up and go and rescue. We face many things on our path to wealth in the way that Elohim set things up. And this was no just simple, one day Abraham is now wealthy and everything is hunky-dory, wonderful. He had some challenges. He had some family issues. He had war with the neighbors. He had famine. Just don't be discouraged that you're like, oh, I wish I was further along. I don't want you to feel that way today. I want you to say, wow, look at all these opportunities to build my faith. And the thing is, have you taken those opportunities to build your faith? They could have been opportunities that you've just wasted now, that have not really gone to that depth, right? That have gotten out way ahead of you, and you're thinking, man, I just don't think I can do this. I just don't think that I can do this. So I want to encourage you to be encouraged about your journey on wealth, to wealth. And maybe you could say, you know what? I haven't even really thought about that till now, or a year ago, or 2 years ago, and that's okay. Wherever it is that you wake up to understanding that, wow, there's a journey to wealth that I am on. Know that you're on it. And don't be jealous of people who recognize their journey 10 years earlier than you. Because there are people who don't recognize it till much later than you. And the point is not to compare yourself as much as, and yes, I'm having us compare ourselves to Abram, but what I'm looking at with Abram and what we're looking at today is to encourage, is to look for clues, right? To look for instruction and guidance, because we believe with our heart that Abraham followed Elohim and him had a great relationship. And therefore, if there was anyone that I was going to model on how to come into a wealthy place, I'm going to look for people that I know heard from Elohim. And even more than Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or John Maxwell or whoever it is, famous Oprah, whoever it is you want to pull out of the air, right? These stories here in Genesis are so simple. There's not the complexity that we face in our modern society. And these rules, I believe, these walks of faith are so applicable to us today, right now, where we live, that they can inspire in ways if we look for the gems that are hidden in them, right? Because even the simple things that they did, we can do. And that was really to listen and to be willing to move. And are you willing to move? Some of us will not, and I'm not necessarily talking about geographically, like move to another continent, right? My story is my own story, right? But are you willing to move? Could you change your friends? Could you leave your family if you need to? Could you move to the other side of the city? Could you move to the state next door to you? Are you willing to move? That's the thing. Are you willing to move on faith the way that Abraham moved? And then, not just willing, will you do it? Regardless of what other people are saying or doing, will you move? So, we're looking at wealth. And Abram was our first example today of the process that he went through. And we haven't even finished his story yet. And we're not going to. We're going to skip over to Isaac next. But anyone have anything they want to share or they want to say on what they've heard or thought about so far about moving? I'm going to invite people to speak. Anyone have anything? Okay. All right. We're all really familiar. We know what happens with Abraham. Let's go to Isaac. Okay. Let's jump in at Genesis 26. Genesis 26, verse 1. Listen to this. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abram. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed will I give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore unto Abram thy father. And I will make thy seed multiply as the stars of the heaven, and give unto thee seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abram obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Now we know that there was no Torah written at this point, right? And yet, here we are in Genesis 26, and verse 1 starts with, there was a famine in the land that was besides the first one in the days of Abram. Okay? And so here, Elohim is telling Isaac, do not go down to Egypt, but I want you to dwell where I'm going to send you. And why? Because, and he says, I'm going to multiply you, and all thy seeds and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because that Abram obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Man, I'd love to really know what all those things were. But That's another study. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister. For he feared to say, She is my wife, lest, said he, the men of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. Interesting, he wasn't even alive yet when Abram said the same thing. We're talking about generational wealth, but we could also talk about behaviors that follow through with you, even unto other places, right? So here it is. He's in this place that his father was in. Elohim gives him instructions. So listen, verse 8. And it came to pass when he had been there a long time that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw and beheld Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. Now realize he did not go down to Egypt at this point. He's somewhere else. He stayed in Gerar. He didn't go down to Egypt. And so then Abimelech is, why didn't you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. And we're not here to have that discussion about that. So verse 12. Then Isaac sowed in the land and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. For he had possessions of flocks, possession of herds, great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. So here his father had left something for him, left something for the next generation, and the people around did not see the benefit or the value of them because they had stopped them up. And so Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac, what did he do? He moved. Now, being mightier and stronger than them, he could have said, Yeah, no, I'm just going to stay here. And you have to deal with that. But he didn't. Again, think about when you come into a place of wealth, when you come into what you feel like is your zone, like you've hit your place, you're like, man, I can stretch out now. I'm going to do my thing. You're starting to get your flow going. Things are going. Elohim is blessing you. You're starting to see multiplication happen. And then somebody around you gets envious. Isaac did not have to move, but he did. That takes humility. Because he could say, everything here is mine, because that's what Elohim told me. He told my father, actually. And so all of this is mine, and so, I'm not leaving. But he did move. When you get to certain places on your wealthy place, in a place where you feel like, and it's only a mid-level place, because we do know that this was not the end-all, be-all for Isaac at this point, because him and Rebekah have not even had any children yet. And so there was still much more to his story to go. And so as you're looking at yourself on your journey to wealth and establishing yourself and putting yourself in a place that all the nations of the earth will be blessed because of you, there's a huge responsibility with wealth and what you do with it and how you spread it out and how it works for you. And so here it is. We see this note that the wells his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father. I'm in Genesis 26, verse 15. The Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. Verse 18. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abram. And he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. And the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called them the name of the Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well and strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. And he removed from thence and digged another well, for that strove not. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, for now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Moving to places where you find good ideas and you feel like, I have claim to this. It's my idea. I thought of it. I came up with it. And the people around you are like, no, it's mine. Give it to us. Would you move or would you fight them for it? So let you go on to another idea, another industry. And you're like, okay, yeah, this is it. I have some history there. I'm familiar with this place. Yep, I'm going to dig here. And so you dig and it starts to become fruitful, and the people around, nope, this is ours. Would you move again? Isaac did. And so he moved again to another well, and nobody strove with him. But this is the third time. It's interesting about each one of these gentlemen and their places of coming to wealthy places. And we didn't cover all the life of Abraham. We did stop short. But we can see that he moved a couple of times. We can see, and that he had strife around him. There was even famine. And so we see for his son, Isaac, he had to move a couple of times. There was strife around him. He encountered some famine. He encountered a slight problem with his wife and the people around him, which is probably a lot bigger issue than we're going to cover today, just simply because of culture. But we're not going to cover that today. But just imagine that is probably a really big stressor thing between a husband and a wife, right? And so he has to keep moving, even though his father digged the wells and they had no idea, they weren't thinking about those wells until he dug them up and there was water and those people came from him, and he moved and he moved. Would we do the same thing? Would we just let it go and move? I know I wouldn't. That's not my personality type. I would fight them for it. And that's why my God has given me a very calm, cool, and somewhat passive husband. He'd be like, okay, let's just move. And I'd be like, no way. Blah, 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 blah. And I would just go. and, and he'd be like, we're not striving about it. We'll just move. And I can tell you, I'm hot blooded sometimes. I would not move. I would fight them for it. Because in everything, in every earthly manner, I have claim to that. You don't. And so we all have different personalities, and we pray that you have people that balance you out. That's so important, right? To have people that will balance you out on your wealthy place, whether they're mentors, family, friends, spouse, a business partner. You always want to have someone who's going to balance you out. But here we see Isaac was willing to move, and he moved. And so he digged no one strove with him about it. Verse 24. So the Lord appeared unto him in the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee and multiply thy seed for my servant Abram's sake. And it's interesting when we read later on about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And yet, when God is speaking to Isaac, he does not bless him because of anything that Isaac did. He blessed him for his servant, his father, God's servant's sake. Could your children say the same thing about you? Can you say that about your parents? What are we leaving for the generation after us? And are we okay with that? Are you okay being blessed not because of anything that you did, but because the generation before you was faithful? Is it possible that you are receiving blessings you have now because of the generation before you? Or are you the children's children? Are you the second, the third generation receiving a benefit because of people of faith before you? Will the people behind you be able to say the same thing? Will they be able to look at their life and say, we have this blessing not for our own sake, but because of what our great grandmother left for our family? There's so much about wealth when we look at it, how it is so intertwined. It really is not just a single strand. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just a single strand. It's not just a single event. It's not just one idea that makes you wealthy, because there's so much around that. So I hope that this is encouraging you to say, yeah, if I had wealth today, would I be able to leave it for my children's children, or would I squander it? Are you responsible enough to obtain it? And if you start to get it and Elohim tells you to move, could you move? Could you walk in humility? That took so much humility on Isaac's part to keep moving, even though the wells technically were in his bloodline and it was his father. It wasn't like it was 100 centuries away, right? So in verse 26, 25, and he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well. And so look at that. Before, he'd been living off the well of his father, but this time his servants were the ones that digged a well. And so already he was planning on what he was going to leave for future generations. That is absolutely profound. Do we do that? Do we plan that with wealth? Are you planning that? Have you done that? Think about what's happening internally inside of this family. And I know we can look on the outside and look at other people who are wealthy, and we're like, oh, they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or they were born with this. But don't be mad at them because their family line followed principles, whether we feel like they stole it or not. Because personally, I just really believe that Deuteronomy 28 is, we can't ignore that. And that doesn't mean that punishment is not going to come to the people who steal, right? Because we can look through the Old Testament and we see how the nations that took the children of Israel into bondage because they were disobedient, when those children repented and returned unto Elohim, there came a time when all those nations were punished by Elohim. Even though he used them as a tool of punishment to his people, he turned around and punished them for what they had done. I don't know if we'll still be on the earth to see punishment come back to other people, and that all depends on whether the people who are being oppressed decide to repent and to turn their ways. I'm really excited for us to get to Deuteronomy 28, but that's still a few classes away. But I'm talking about just generations. What are you doing inside your family line? What have your parents or grandparents or great-grandparents done for you that you've inherited? And if there's been nothing and you are struggling now, then make the decision that you are not going to pass that on to the next generation. That you can break out of it, that you can rise up out of it, because Abraham did not start with anything like that. You have a promise from Elohim, right? And so what is it now that you are aware of this? You're aware of what you need to do. How are you submitting the works of your hand? If he placed you in a garden, are you dressing it and keeping it? Are you being faithful over what he has given you? Are you willing to move when he says move? The wealth that you're accumulating or the things that you're doing, what are you leaving for the next generation? It just can't be about you, yourself, and nobody else. Even if you're single. Even if you're single, whatever you create should not be consumed and die with you. What are you leaving? What do you plan to leave? Has it even entered your mind? So if you want wealth, what are you doing to be responsible with the resources that Elohim has given to everybody? All of us have the power to get wealth. All of us have dominion. It's now, what are we doing with it? How are we going to manage it? Am I walking in humility even when I don't have it? If someone strives with me, would I move on? If Elohim said, leave that and go over here, and then you're over here, he tells you, I'm going to bless you, but then you got to move because there's a famine. And could you move? Would you move? What would your heart and your attitude and your mind be like? What if he told you to leave America and go somewhere else and wander, or purposely bring you over here? What if he told you to go to Australia or Canada or Poland or the Philippines? And I'm not talking missionary work. What if he just told you to move? Could you do it? Would you do it? Right? And so when you're thinking about your wealth and your path and your journey, do you understand that everything in this earth was created by Elohim? All he has done is given you power, which means then that you can develop, you can manage, you can form, but you can be wasteful, you can be selfish, you can strive with others, right? So, what are you doing with the power that he has given to you? These two, Abraham and Isaac, no doubt they had wealth. And they had multiple streams of income, by the way. Because yes, you could be a farmer, but if you have cattle, if you have sheep, if you have goat, and if you have servants, laborers, those are all different streams of income because you can send your people out to work. And someone says, hey, I need 5 of your men to come do some work for me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, it'll cost you this. You pay them this, I get the rest. There's nothing wrong with having multiple. And I'm not a farmer, but I would imagine that maybe how you take care of chickens is not the same way as the way you take care of goats. And I do know goats and cows are different. They may eat some of the same thing, but they mate differently. It's different. They're different. You need skilled people. You know how to take care of them when they get sick. If a disease comes through, how do you heal them? All the different things that it takes skill, it takes knowledge, it takes experience. You have to be taught. If you're trying to do something in some field you believe that Elohim has put you in, how are you developing your skills? If you want to go in that field, you feel he's leading you in that skills, who have you come up under to mentor you? And now with technology, you can read books, watch YouTube, follow them, take some online courses. There are so many ways to access mentoring and skills right now. Many that are free. So we can't even say money. And now internet and phones and everything is just very few places don't have internet. There are still places, but very few. But at least to the people that I'm speaking to right now and who may listen later on, if you're listening, you have Wi Fi. So you have access to skills and to mentoring and to knowledge and to wisdom. So, how are you shaping the resources that Elohim has put in your hands? Anyway, so we're going to stop here with Isaac. And next week, when we come back, we'll continue with Isaac and we'll go on to Jacob And I think it'll be great the way we dig into Jacob with Laban, right? And how that's a situation, right? That he could even prosper and be so wealthy in that situation. And so then because of Jacob, we see Joseph. So we're just going to keep looking at generational wealth here and how people were willing to move in faith, to walk in extreme humility, even though they didn't have to. Yes, they had to, you know what I mean? Like how Isaac was willing to let go of the wells. And then we see in that verse that he had his servants dig a well. And so what he learned from his father, he duplicated the good things. And so are we willing to do the same? So I want to end it here. Does anyone have anything they want to add? Any questions they want to ask? Something they want to say before we close the room? MD, anything you want to say? Okay. We can't hear her. She's not saying anything. That's why you can't hear her. And I didn't say anything. I was being quiet so that I could see if anyone had anything to say. Shabbat shalom and Sabbath to you. Okay. We're still on our series for wealth. I hope you'll keep studying. So next week we'll continue with Isaac a little bit, and then we'll get into Jacob, and we'll touch on Jacob when he's at Laban's house, right? And how he had the speckled lamb and the sheep, and how that turned into prosperity for him. So I thank everyone for coming to class today, and I pray that you continue to have a blessed Sabbath day. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Selah Sabbath Studies, where ancient truths meet modern life. We pray what you've heard today invites you into deeper reflection and a deeper walk with the Creator. If you'd like to join us for live Sabbath sessions, find the room on Clubhouse. And if you're listening after the fact, feel free to leave your thoughts or questions in the comments. We do read and consider them and will respond. Until next time, pause, reflect, rise. This is Selah.